All right, folks, let me call the meeting to order. This is a regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting called and convened this evening, February the 14th, 2017. Having called the meeting to order, I'd like to invite you to stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I will lead council in an invocation following that if you'd like to remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One nation under God, indivisible. Lord, we beseech you tonight on that statement of faith and in promise, and ask that you would continue to unite and uphold our country. We thank you for the many blessings that you have poured out upon us, not the least among those democracy in a country where we can gather freely and express our views even when they're different. And I pray, Lord, that this evening that you will guide us as we do the business of this city. We thank you for the opportunity that you have given us to be servant leaders among this city, and I pray that we'll be mindful of the needs of all in our community and that we might represent them to the best of our ability by the graces and understanding and mercy that you've provided for us. I ask all these things in Christ's name and for his sake. Amen. Well, thank you for being with us this evening. We set aside a time at the first of our council meetings for public forum. This is a time that you can come before the council and provide for us additional information, insight, concerns, anything that might be on your mind in regards to those items that are prevalent to our meetings. And so, Ms. Duncan, anybody to appear in public forum this evening? With that, then, we'll move to the minutes of the council meeting. In your package, you'll have the meeting minutes from the meeting on January the 24th. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Ms. Bookert?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. With that, we'll move to the administrator's report. Mr. Driggers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. A couple of items just to make you aware of, and a couple of calendar items. One of those is that many of us are celebrating with the Greater Greer Chamber of Commerce this Thursday evening. They will be having their annual meeting, and if you've indicated so, we have made reservations and accommodations for you to join us. We are a table sponsor at that event and always look forward to celebrating with our local business community the achievements over the past year. So look forward to spending some time with you on Thursday evening for that this week. I want to make you aware also that we are finalizing our preparation for our council retreat work session. Our topic items are filling up quickly in that you are providing many topic items, and that's wonderful. We are taking those and we're getting those scheduled in. It's going to be a full 2 days for us. We'll have some additional information coming out shortly as far as the time of day and how we're doing that. We're adjusting our schedule a bit to have some accommodation for you and your work schedules as well. We'll start a little later, mid-morning than we typically would on that Tuesday, March the 7th, and then we'll work through a meal on that evening, and then we will gather around mid-morning again on that Wednesday, and we will finish up mid to late afternoon, but not into the evening on that Wednesday. So again, March 7th and 8th as we're preparing for your annual planning retreat, and look forward to that time with you. Again, if you have items for discussion that you would want to make sure that we are going to put on that schedule, please let me know. We'll make sure that we get that allocated. Glad to do that. Also want to make you aware, sometimes we know that you will get contacted by constituents, members of the public, if there is something that maybe is a little different. So we want to make you aware that we are making some procedural changes, some organizational changes to our permitting process for jobs that come in downstairs. We're estimating that it will only impact about 10% of our permits. About 90% of our permit process will continue as they have been previously, but we're trying to mainstream that process a bit by making sure that we get it to the appropriate plan review personnel. And so in the past, there's been some occasion where we've been able to process those permits while a customer's been able to wait at the counter. We think that we'll be able to continue to do that for a customer that would want to step aside out of the line there at the window for City Hall, that they would step aside. We'll get that permit through the appropriate folks in the back, and then we would be able to get that issued very quickly. But it is just a little change, a little bit different, and so we've been working very closely with our administrative department, particularly our finance personnel that are there at the front windows downstairs, and also our personnel with building and development standards. We anticipate this to be a very smooth process. We anticipate this to be very well communicated to members of the public that would come in requesting a building permit. But if you should get a question about that, we encourage you to give us a call. We encourage you to have the person that's communicating with you to make sure that we work through with them what we're doing and why we're doing it. We absolutely believe that this will improve our process. But we are growing, and we are processing more permits than we ever have in the history of our city, and we're trying to make sure that we continue to do that very efficiently, providing the highest level of service to all of our customers that are working through that process. But it's a little different, and we wanted you to be aware. If someone asks you, you're able to say, yes, I am aware that they made a few changes. Let me work with you on trying to get your questions answered. So we want to help you as we approach that as well. I know that you are obviously aware that there's an agenda item for you a little bit later as we are looking at appointments to our election commission. I know that you are continuing to review and to work on that, but I do remind you that as we approach the summer of 2017, we will be at that point of filing for 3 of our council seats, and of course an election in November. So it is very, very important that that we get that appointment to our election commission so that things will run very smoothly for Ms. Duncan and the folks that are involved in conducting our municipal elections. If there is anything that we can do to assist you in that process, we are glad to do that. But that was just a friendly reminder this is an election year, and we do need to make sure we get that appointment filled, please. A little bit later in your agenda, we'll have an opportunity. A new face will be before you, making some remarks and introduction to some of the information, particularly relative to zoning and rezoning requests. So I wanted to introduce officially Kelly McCormick. Kelly's been on board with us now since the end of 2016, came on board with us back in December, is our planner and is on staff with us now, working very closely with Glenn Pace, and they're splitting off some of those duties and responsibilities, so you'll be hearing from Kelly this evening in an official capacity for the first time. So I wanted to make sure that you were able to recognize who she is and what her role is here with us. And Kelly, we're glad to have you part of Team Greer, so thank you for joining us this evening. I'd like to also spend a couple of moments this evening briefing council on 2 pieces of state legislation that we are growing gravely concerned about. It is moving rapidly through the state legislature. This is House Bill 3650 and House Bill 3651. Both of those are directly related to the local ability to have a business license program and to collect a business license. It is critically important to us. It is a large part of our total budget. And we have been in constant communication with the Greer Chamber of Commerce, keeping them informed of what the impact would be if this legislation were to be approved. It is so important to us that I wanted to take a couple of moments tonight to give a little more detailed information about what that means to us. Mr. Seifert has prepared some information, but do recall, we have been working for the last couple of years diligently with other municipalities across South Carolina to standardize the business license process. We absolutely understand that we want it to be convenient for business to do business not only in South Carolina but also in Greenville County, Spartanburg County, and particularly as they do business here in the city of Greer. We know that there were improvements that could be made to that process, and we were a leader in getting on board and doing that with a group of cities across the state. Through the Municipal Association, we've been working closely with the State Chamber of Commerce and others for the last couple of years to develop a uniform, standardized process relative to business license. But it has gone a bit off rail, and we are extremely concerned about that, and we wanted to share some information with you tonight about what that impact could be to us as a municipality. David?
Thank you, Mr. Driggers and Mayor and Council. As Mr. Driggers just explained, this is not the bill that our state committee has been working on for 2 years for standardization across the whole state. The bill that is before us now that has passed the committee and is ready to go to the floor is important to understand that it is not business friendly and it is not city friendly. When you get into the bill, you'll find that it is full of special interest legislation that creates breaks for specific lines of businesses, and that causes a redistribution of income across our business population and redistribution of that tax burden. In short, these exceptions in the bills reduce the city's tax base, which would reduce our income in excess of $1.9 million. So let's put this in other terms. In relation to millage, that's 17.58 mills. In relation to employees, that's equivalent to about 39 employees. And Mr. Driggers will be presenting some information relative specifically to employees in that regard. To put it in terms of our business license rates, and this is really where we're taking the hit, is in our business licenses. But to accommodate and absorb this loss would require an increase in our business license rates of 167%. That is extremely, extremely high. Either raising the millage in this manner, it redistributes the burden to all our taxpayers, not just our businesses, but doing it through millage would redistribute that burden to include residents, which presently do not have any part of the business license tax as it is today. To raise the business license rates now shifts the burden from those special interest businesses to all the remaining businesses. And it's important to understand here that 84% of our business population are the personally owned mom and pop type businesses in our city. 84% of our business population are those type businesses, and they are our small revenue earning businesses, less than $500,000 annually of gross income. So as we stated before, these bills have passed the subcommittee and committee. They're ready to go to the House floor. What we're asking is that you please become familiar with these two bills. One is specific to business licenses locally. One is specific to the collection programs that the Municipal Association runs. And that once you become familiar with the bills, understand its impact to us and to the businesses around the state. And we hope that you and our citizens understand this and then begin contacting our legislature. This is a very important piece of legislation that does damage to a lot of people and only helps a very small, specific line of businesses across the state. And as Mr. Driggers comes forward, we have some information relative to specifically the personnel side.
David, quickly, and you may not have an answer for this, but the thought occurred to me the other night. If we take our business license revenue income as a whole, okay, the whole thing, and we look at this 84%, which is actually the businesses, what amount of that volume, that gross income, does that 84% constitute? Do we know what that number is?
That is not a specific ratio that I looked at.
Okay.
But certainly one that I can get back to you.
Because it would seem to me that we're shifting a larger amount of the income to a much smaller base, and so while the number of businesses is represented by 84%, I would like to see what those percentages are in terms of our gross for those
Right.
for those businesses as opposed to the larger businesses.
Not having the specific numbers, I think your gut feeling is correct, that 84% of our businesses do not create the majority of our revenue base. So they would be carrying a much larger burden on a lower base.
Well, yeah, and that's my point entirely. These 84% of our businesses probably constitute a third of the income, and what we're getting ready to do is shift another third from that other smaller group onto that group. So, I mean, I think there's an interesting point to be made in that if we can calculate it without too much extrapolation.
That'll be easy to get. We can get that for you.
How did this get so far off track? Because all of your reports back to us have been, seems like everybody's on
Right.
board with it. It'll be standardized, and then so where did this come from? And to be passed out of committee?
This came to us really as a surprise when the last time the state committee met and that the municipal association met with Representative Sandifer, everything was still on track, and that was right before the session ended. When they came back from the break, within about 2 days, this legislation was presented, and the word to us was, push it through committee, I've got the votes. And it's not good legislation.
Check to see where he went on vacation over the break.
David, who is the 16% that stands to benefit most from this change?
Just from the class of businesses, obviously we can't name names, but you have contractors and subcontractors and builders, insurance companies, telecommunications companies, attorneys, funeral homes, auto dealers, manufacturers, and then businesses that have very specific lines of revenue that the legislation either exempts or exempts a portion of, just simply because of the line of revenue that it comes from or the business that it supports.
Is there any logic behind it? How this? I mean, did they lay out their logic as how they arrived at it, or was it just we're going to show favor to these industries?
I can't speak to opinion. They did not present any logic to us now.
We, Municipal Association obviously did testify at the subcommittee hearings, and at the committee hearings, it appeared to fall on deaf ears. It moved very quickly through committee. We are very concerned that it could move very quickly through the full House. And if that is the case, then we have to posture then more of a defensive position on anything that would happen over on the Senate side. We were extremely supportive of these bills in their concept and in their intent as they were being created and they were being prepared to file. I can assure you that the bill that went before committee and now will go before the full House is not the bill that the Municipal Association and the State Chamber of Commerce worked on together. The language is very different. We saw it about 2 days prior to it being filed. And we only were able to see it because it was shared with us from friends within the Chamber
community and with friends within the realtor community and home builders community. Home Builders Association, Realtors Association, a number of other Small Business Coalition Alliance, Manufacturers Alliance. There are a number of folks that apparently worked on the current version that we were not involved with in that original version. Again, our intent was to standardize, to make sure that a business that was doing business in Greer or Malden or Simpsonville or Spartanburg or Greenville, that their classification would be the same from community to community. There was a recognition and a respect that local communities set their own rates, and that was never dealt with. There was this the issue of, and it is a contested issue of where this would reside. Our concern is that the enforcement, the whole concept of the local business license program is a local government issue, and the bill takes it from local government and places it in the Secretary of State's office, and we have grave concerns about that. We are now of the belief that there is no ability for us to be able to get satisfactory amendments to these bills, 3650, 3651, and so we are asking of you, based on the information that we will share with you, the information that's been shared so far, and the additional information is that there is a significant impact to us, and we need to make sure that our legislative delegation is aware of what that impact's going to be. Because here's the alternatives that we have. As the bill is written, there is a provision in the bill that will make us whole. So when we say that we potentially could lose $1.9 million, there is a provision that says you don't have to lose the $1.9 million. You can shift it. That is to the point that David is raising, that 84% of our businesses will bear the lion's share of having to absorb that shift. The 16% that are winners will shift $1.9 million to the 84% that are not winners. And the bill allows us to do that. It says that we can shift our rates to make that happen. We've got grave concerns of whether or not our business community could absorb that type of a shift in the business license tax. And if that is not possible, then obviously there's an impact to the level of services that we would be taking a look at. So, is that going to get me there? Yes. So what I wanted to spend just a couple of moments, and we've had to go through this type of exercise before, where we've had to look at all of the operations of the city to say if we are indeed going to be impacted citywide and we're going to affect this large number of employees, we have to look across our entire base. And it isn't just people, but it's service hours. It's what are those people out there doing? So you can see that whether, and we'll take a look at each of our departments, whether it's administrative or it's recreation or police or fire or building development standards, we have to look at all of those. And we don't believe that there's the ability that we simply say if we have to absorb this, that we have to absorb it proportionately across our entire workforce. Because to a point that I was making to one of the members of council earlier, we are at an all-time high in processing permits in our Building and Development Standards Office. So if we had to absorb this in positions, that's one of the places that we can't logically really do that because we're absolutely over volume in what we're processing through that now. But if we had to proportionately take this across our entire organization, you can see that we've got 21 full-time employees in all of our administrative services citywide. If we were to have to absorb that proportionately, you can see that those are 4 positions right there that we have to eliminate. And that number then goes down to 17. And so if it happens in administration, it also happens in Building and Development Standards, 14 employees in that department. We're going to see 3 of those that have to be eliminated to absorb this, taking that to 11 positions. If we see that in the fire department, 41 full-time equivalent positions inside that department, we give a proportionate distribution of that to the 82,000 service hours that are delivered to our residents within that department. We're going to go from 82,000 down to 68,000 hours of service, and we're going to go down to 34 employees. We're going to see a reduction in service within our community. Same thing's going to happen to us if we go over to municipal courts. There's 11 full-time folks over in there, 22,000 hours of service that they're providing. This bill passes and we have to shift it to our service side of things. We're going to eliminate 2 of those positions, and we're going to go down in service delivery hours as well. And we can see that across all of our operations. In Parks and Recreation, 35 full-time equivalent employees, 70,000 hours of what we're doing out there in programming and preparing our facilities and our fields for everything that we do relative to providing recreation in our community. We give that even distribution. We're going to go down to 29, and we're going to reduce ourselves to 58,000 hours. Again, a 17.1% just in that department of what we're seeing as a loss. Police department would be the one that is most impacted because it is our largest department. 83 full-time equivalent employees, 166,000 hours of service. You can see the number of positions. If that's how we have to deal with this issue, this is how it impacts that department as well, taking us down in resources in that department to 68 full-time equivalents, 146,000 hours, an 18.1% reduction in service to where we are today relative to that department. Public services isn't spared as well. So when we go out and try to fix sidewalks, cut yards, abandoned properties, fix potholes, whatever it is that we're doing through our public services department, those 20 full-time equivalent employees are going to be affected the same way. We're going to go from 40,000 down to 34,000 service hours, able to do less than we are able to do today. We dropped to 17 FTEs in that department, and again, that's a 15% loss in productivity because of the reduction in service to that department. Citywide, 224 full-time equivalent employees that we have, delivering 448,000 hours annually of service. If we shift this completely to the personnel side of our budget, this is what we're going to be eliminating. You see all the X's through there. We're going to drop to 370,000 hours of productive service, down to 185 full-time equivalent, and that is a 17.4% loss citywide. This has a significant impact to us. So does it go all to employees and affect 39 employees citywide? Does it all go to our businesses and we shift $1.9 million to 84% of our businesses? Or is it some combination of the two? That is the issue that you will be facing if, as written, 3650 and 3651 passes. This is critical to the future operation as we continue to move forward. And so I encourage you to reach out to our representatives, particularly our representatives in the House of Representatives. When this issue goes to the House floor, we can't amend this bad bill anymore. It is so poorly done for us, and the impact to us is that the only options that we have at this point is to ask our House members to vote no. We need to ask our House members on 3650, 3651 that we say, please vote no for those bills, because this is what's going to happen in Greer. And if it's happening in Greer, it's happening in Greenville and in Malden and in Simpsonville and in Spartanburg, and it's happening in Florence and Myrtle Beach and every municipality in our state. And it's also going to affect some of our counties because we have 6 counties We have 8 counties statewide that also have a business license tax. And so when nearly a third of our income comes from a particular revenue source, and the state does something that could this adversely impact it, we have to recognize you as the decision makers will have to deal with this issue if these bills pass.
Yeah, the 16% that David read off, does that mean that they will not be required to have a business license, period?
No.
The reduction.
Their break is substantial. It's written into the legislation that they get they get a break in what they're currently paying.
The way the legislation is written is there are paragraphs throughout the legislation that say you must treat certain businesses in certain ways. And then one particular paragraph just has a list of 7, 8 exceptions. And they read something like 50% of the revenue would not be included for this line of business under certain situations.
But it doesn't set the rate.
It does not set the rate.
Can we not adjust our rates?
That's the...
Or does it tell you can't do that?
No, that's where Mr. Drieger's explained that the legislation does allow for it to be revenue neutral to us as a city. But in order for us to be revenue neutral, we have to shift that tax burden to another class of business. And that 84% is going to, do not receive the benefit that other 16% receive or to the same level. So we'd be shifting that burden to a lower income class.
The legislation identifies specific types of businesses for exemption or for breaks.
And it says they get a discount or
It says they get an exemption in their gross revenue that is calculable for the business license tax.
so one of these widget people that gets this exemption, whatever category they fall under now, why don't we just adjust that rate for that category?
If that were the route to go, that's what that is a possibility we're proposing, but we'd be adjusting all the rates. And it would be that 167% rate increase across our whole rate.
Why would you adjust all the rates?
You can't adjust the rate just in one class. The rate has to, by the way that it works, is that you have to adjust the rate incrementally across all classes. That's the premise of the fairness of the system, is that you can't set different rates in different class groups.
That's existing law or that's new?
That is existing law, and that doesn't change under this.
It doesn't change under these bills.
Under this bill.
So you can't tweak one category?
No.
You can't do that, and what's important to understand here is we're talking 7 or 8 lines of specific business, where in any particular category you may have 500 lines of business. So even affecting that one rate may affect that one business, yes, but it also affects the other 499 classes. And we have a rate structure that has 8 classes, and in that we have 4,500 businesses.
Can we not internally say, okay, you other 86% get such and such an adjustment also? Can we not do that as a city?
Because again, we have to, maybe an oversimplification. For example, if we say that our rate is $2.
Our lowest one is $1.35 per thousand.
$1.35. And here's the premise it works. If we went from $1.35 to $1.40, that 5-cent increment has to be exactly the same in every class.
I understand that.
Yes.
But if the legislation passes and that 14% gets a break, can we not as a city extend that same break to everybody else and then raise all rates?
Extend the same break to everyone
No, because
we would not be allowed to extend that break to the other because it isn't allowed under the legislation.
you've got
Only those identified get the break.
you've got 2 separate issues at work. You're not working off of gross anymore. You're working off of adjusted income. So you've got that difference, and then you've got specific exemptions in there. There's how many specific exemptions in there? There's about 7 or 8, whether or not they're operating across county lines, whether or not they've got multiple locations, whether or not they, car trade-ins are exempt.
So we're
There
working
are
off of
funeral
everyone's
homes
adjusted
funeral homes
income
are
now?
exempt. I mean, there's,
Well, that's going to change everybody then.
Well, not everyone.
Just those specific.
Just those.
Oh, we're just working off-
Just the exemptions.
That
are
can't be
just-
constitutional, can it? I just don't believe
We
that.
don't know if it's constitutional, but we sure don't believe it's fair.
I see a lawsuit at some point.
It's, obviously, we're adversely impacted, so we don't believe that it's good legislation. I have to believe that there's somebody out there who thinks this is wonderful legislation.
Apparently.
well, there are parts of it that are extremely vague. There is one section in there that says a single act doesn't constitute an act of business. So if you contract with somebody to come paint your house and that's the only thing you're contracting with them for, they're not going to be required to have a business license. It doesn't, it says that if it's a single act, it doesn't constitute being a business. So anybody that does work on an individual basis like that could claim that every job they do is a single act.
And if that were to apply for, let's say, roofers, during the hailstorms, we issued in excess of 1,200 roofing permits. Under that definition, the single act of business, those would not have been required to get a business license. And without the business license, we would not have known that they were out there performing the work. Therefore, we wouldn't be inspecting. You know, the permit process and the business license, all those are intertwined so that we're aware that that work is taking place out there. We just don't think this is good in the long run. Things were added to this bill that we were not expecting, and it certainly has an adverse impact to us. It certainly has the potential that it can have a significant loss of income. That income has to either be shifted or absorbed if these bills pass. And so my role tonight is to make sure that you're informed, to make sure that we get additional information for you that you may need. But we ask of you, your relationships with our state elected officials, we need to reach out and say, do you know what this is going to do in Greer? This is what it's going to do in Greer.
What do our representatives say if we had a chance to speak with them?
We have. I will leave that more to the elected official side. So, Mayor, I'll put you on the...
Thank you.
Yes, we have, and some with varying responses.
We have gotten varying responses. We actually have 2 members that were members of the committee. Both of those folks were supportive of these efforts.
2 members.
Mr. Forster, who's on the Spartanburg County side, he doesn't actually have anything in the city, but we contacted him, and then Ms. Henderson, who has some in the city. Both were supportive of moving it forward.
We've had good communications.
We've had good communications with the others. Tommy Stringer was very open. Miss Allison was very open to discussion. They have not seen the particulars at this point. So, Mr. Burns, yeah. So, information is key at this point in time.
We've been through this, what you were putting up tonight about how to reduce expenditures by laying off.
Yeah.
Well, we've been through this exercise once before. We had a drastic reduction in income, and we were able to work through it with a combination. But the factor that's totally different is that the number of employee hours required to maintain what we have now was much less than what it is now. And so we were able to do that. this is, even if you do some sort of combination, you're just at that one, at the level where you are now. That doesn't,
That's right. You're at ground zero.
it doesn't require, I mean, it's not going to allow for growth.
It's, we want business to be successful in our city and in South Carolina. We want it to be streamlined, and we want to provide those businesses the ability to easily get permitted in our community and other communities. We believe there are excellent ways to do that across the state. We can have uniform due dates, and we can do all of those things. But to send this entire program to the Secretary of State's office, completely out of the hands of local government, you will lose this revenue over time. There is no doubt in my mind that you would lose it over time. And your immediate issue would be, how do you shift it today, as you would try to look at how would you lose it over the long term. This isn't a whole lot different from what we've had to deal with the local government fund. And we know how bad that has been for us, and the pain that we've had to go through to work through that issue.
Well, what about as far as making up income? If you said these particular classes, they're not necessarily, it's not a business license fee, it's some other fee, like how we identify contractors with stickers. So could you could take all those classes and say, well, we've got a government fee, a state government recoup fee. I mean, is that something possible, or would it just be too convoluted to try to make that work?
I think the short answer is we don't know. The long answer would be, I would certainly hope there's some abilities to do some other things that as we would move forward.
Yeah, I'm in favor of doing that and calling it exactly what you called it.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean,
State thief sticker is what you got to have to put in your bid.
And again, the intent tonight was for us to understand what this potential of this to us. This is the potential impact to us, either in the revenue side or the service side, or combinations of those things. And the task that you folks have is that you lose revenue. You have to make decisions about to affect service or generate that in some other way. And we just wanted to make sure that we're all and we just want to make sure that our state legislators understand that when we communicate with them, we say, look, we want business to do well, but an unintended consequence of supporting this bill could be this. And while you believe you're doing something really good, this is what happens in Greer. And if this is happening in Greer, it's happening in Greenville, and Malden, and Simpsonville, Spartanburg, and Florence, and Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, but the ones that's really going to hurt are smaller towns that probably don't have 86%. You know, there are a lot of places.
Shift it to.
That's right. A lot of places have a huge employer, and then they have a handful of others, you know.
I mean, I just can't see us going to a coffee shop in our community and saying, today this is your business license, but because of this state legislation, this is now your business license. Yeah. And it used to be $200, and now it's $800.
Well, I think it's so short-sighted on anybody that would support this, because at the state level, unless you want to do away with all levels of government, if that's your ultimate goal, then this is one of the things you do. If you want to get rid of city governments, this is what you do. If you want to get rid of county governments, all right, you're starting to work on eight counties right now. Because what happens is cities can't make their obligations. They can't raise the taxes high enough to pay for this. So they default on everything, and then it falls back into the state's lap. Plus, you know, it's just going to be one big mess that the state's going to be left holding, and this is. What did the members of the folks that support it? Do they have any rationale? Did they have any?
They support it as business friendly.
Business friendly.
And I
Education, really.
I will say this. Our local chamber has been very, very active in working with us to secure these numbers, to spread our message, to support our stand, even in the face of some opposition. And I tip of the hat to Mark Owens and his folks and the folks in Greenville who have worked hard to keep their base of folks informed. They obviously are in a very tough position, but I think Mark and others understand that for their base of customers, most of which, or a lot of which, probably very similar to our numbers, are small businesses, that they realize that if a company's going to go from paying $250 to $600, well, they're probably not going to have that $300 or $400 to pay their chamber dues, so they make a decision. Are they going to buy a business license, or are they going to up for the chamber next year? So they realize that this is an issue for them, and they've been very supportive of us. I will say that.
But I've listened to the industries that are going to get these breaks, and one of the things that just pops out, that sticks out to me, that the ones that I can remember what you've said, they have very strong lobbies. Home Builder Associate, the realtors, and I hate to say it, but they're all about themselves and their back pocket.
Mr. Sandefur's from Seneca, isn't that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Has anyone talked to their city council and mayor and see what they're doing about it?
Yes.
Have they talked to him?
He'll leave that answer to the elected officials.
They have to no avail.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Interesting. He owns a funeral home, which is one of the exhibits.
No action obviously required of council other than
Say that
the
again,
action
so
being
everybody can hear.
need to reach out.
Sandefur, what's his business?
In the funeral home business.
Funeral home business. That's one of the industries, correct?
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I don't think it will for a long time. All right, council, let's move on. Please be mindful of that. We will be working on that as we move forward. Is that the end of your report, Mr.
Yes, sir.
With that, then we'll move on. You already understand that we need to move forward on our replacement of, that we've got an open position on the Elections Commission. We'll take that from advice from staff and to move on in that regard. With that, we'll move to items of new business, the first of which is the first reading of ordinance number 2-2017. Excuse me. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Ellis Holdings LLC located on Wade Hampton Boulevard and Tryon Street from C3 Highway Commercial to DRD Design Review. Mr. Pace?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And we're going to work in concert tonight with Ms. McCormick here with us. Again, new face to you guys, but she's been in this business for quite some time now, working for Greenville County and Spartanburg County in her past life, but now she's a municipal employee, and we're glad to have her. But I can briefly state that this rezoning came to us. We have reviewed it entirely with Kelly on board. She's very much aware of the project and what's going on with it, and I'll kind of let her give you a brief description, and then we'll move forward with our other cases.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I don't normally sound like this, so please forgive me for that as well. Ordinance number 2, 2017, the rezoning request at Wade Hampton and Tryon Street. They are requesting a rezoning from C3 Highway Commercial to DRD Design Review District to construct a new apartment complex. And the Planning Commission did conduct a public hearing. No one spoke in favor or in opposition at that time. We do have developers here if you do want to hear from them, and the Planning Commission did motion to approve that rezoning request at their meeting on January 30th.
By show of hand, are the owners of the property or representatives of the owners of the property with us this evening? All right, I'll make note of that, and we may come back for discussion. Council, I'll entertain a motion to receive ordinance number 2-2017.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion. Questions, comments?
So the parcel goes across the road, is that right?
Yes, sir, the original parcel is 2.
Right.
It was split by Tryon many years ago, don't know when. But in order for this to come back to second reading, we would ask them to specifically have a plat that would alleviate that split zoning that we won't do. So we're aware of that, and we're just trying to move forward.
The portion on the left side of Tryon Street, I guess it'd be the western side, will remain zone office district.
That used to be a parking lot when the school was
That's
there.
right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Gentlemen, anything you'd like to add to the discussion tonight? Any comments that y'all wish to make to council? If so, come to the podium, please, and if you'll identify yourself, that'd be great.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'll be brief. We're excited about this proposed development. It'll be an $8 million facility that'll, I understand this property's been off the tax rolls or in a minimal state for quite some time. So this would put an $8 million facility back on the tax rolls. We've gone through and made sure that we are in compliance with the comprehensive plan. It works well with the strategic plan for the city of Greer also. We are proposing to do interconnectivity with sidewalks, and we plan to do screening from the adjacent neighborhood. We think that this development will be a great transition between the commercial area on Wade Hampton Boulevard all the way over to the residential area behind it. We understand that one of the Planning Commission members actually lives behind this property. We spoke with her after the Planning Commission meeting and expressed our desire to meet with the HOA for any concerns they might have. So far it's been a good situation, and I think that it'd be a great addition to the city.
Apartments?
Yes, sir.
How many?
I believe we've got 48 or 50. 48, yes, sir.
And how many levels?
It's it'll be a 3-story building, and we're doing what we call a semi-urban design. And the reason we do that, James, can you hand them those packages, please? There's a rendering attached to the front there. I have some photographs that I can share. I've only got it in electronic format, unfortunately, but the design it works well as a transition, again, between that commercial and the residential. We've built several communities like that, and it blends well. It's a great transition between the two. It'll be brick and a combination of brick and hardy plank siding, accents, and it will be a pitched roof, but it'll be a low pitched roof in behind parapets to give that more of a little urban commercial feel.
Is this going to be, is there going to be some low-income housing set aside in it, or is it all?
It is
market?
it's financed with Section 42 federal tax credits. And we own 30 properties like this across North and South Carolina. We're actually building in 4 states. And we have a management company that manages all of our properties here, and they're from South Carolina as well. We work very closely with municipalities to make sure that we're in compliance. All the mayors and city managers have my cell phone number. We've built developments like this in Rock Hill. We did a redevelopment of an entire city block up there. We actually own a property here in Greer. It's called Berkshire Place. We've had it for quite some time. It's been in service for almost 15 years now.
What is going to be the average rent? I mean, are they 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom units? What?
We have 2, 3s, and 4s. We only have 6 4-bedroom units. The gross rents are $774 for a 2, $873 for a 3, and $973 for a 4.
So there will be a percent that's set aside for low income?
Well, no, so the way it works, the entire property will be for folks that do not exceed 60% of the area median income. People often get confused with, say, Section 8 or something like that. These properties, our residents have to come in and qualify. If they make more than 60% of area median income, then they don't qualify. Now, 60% of area median income is a pretty high number. I'm not exactly sure. I have to look it up to see what it is for Greer, but it's probably around $68,000, $70,000 median.
There's no low incomes on these.
No. That's the area median income.
Yeah.
60% of that would be what they could cap out at as far as income. So you're talking about your entry-level school teachers, firefighters, police officers, clerks, cashiers, folks that work in restaurants. We have a large range of folks that live in our communities.
Is that the same criteria for Berkshire?
Yes. Now, the only difference, Berkshire Place is the same income restrictions. The only difference is that is restricted to age 55 and older. You know, I think it's important to note we screen all of our residents very heavily. We want to be a good neighbor. Because we screen our residents very well, we screen them for criminal background checks, we screen them for credit history, and we also call prior rental references. We want good residents. Because we go through that scrutinous process, we have a 97% occupancy rate across my entire portfolio. And that's because we make sure we maintain our properties. We've got a lot of single moms, and you know, people don't want to talk about affordable housing or think they need affordable housing until someone they know needs affordable housing. I get phone calls constantly. One of the council members where I live actually gave me a phone call this week, and a friend of his, husband and wife, and had a young child. They were living in a regular apartment, and he went through some financial troubles and a bout of depression, and unfortunately he killed himself. And now the mom and the child have nowhere to go. So he called me up and said, can you help him? I said, that's what we do. So we certainly can. Now, that's not the only story. We have families that live there. We have dual income earners. City of Georgetown, I've got a property in Georgetown, and one of my residents is actually on the planning commission in Georgetown. So they serve and they give back to the community. They serve in the public element, just like we all do.
Others?
Mr. Pace, do we have any way of keeping tabs on our existing stock for affordable housing? I mean, do we have any idea of?
We don't have a direct inventory of that stock. That's something we've talked often about trying to do. And hopefully with Kelly being on board, that it affords us more time to be able to create that information for you. Because we need to know that also.
And as we begin working on the comprehensive plan, which will be due in 2020, one of those elements is housing, and that'll be an important part that we will certainly look at as we approach that subject.
In regard to that plan, that area is in the transportation zone, is it not?
It is.
That would be part
it's
of that.
Also in the,
part of that comprehensive plan.
Correct. Yes, sir. And it is in the qualified census tract for the U.S. Census also.
Yeah. Okay. Others? Have a motion and a second for first reading. Comes with approval from staff. Anyone else? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, Mayor Danner.
Yes. So first reading of ordinance number 3-2017. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of a portion of property owned by SRMC Ventures LLC located at 311 B Street by 100% petition and to establish the zoning classification of RS for said property. The Pace and McCormick team, you're up. So.
Well, this one's got me on it.
Oh, okay. Mr. Pace.
And again, that's where we're pitch hitting right now, because I do the annexations, and Kelly hasn't yet started into that position of doing those yet. But we're working together throughout this process tonight to try to better serve you in the future. But this annexation is for part of a property, 25-foot strip, to make us accessible to a piece of property that is in further ordinance 4 for this project. And it is a project that would be 37 acres in size and would incorporate single-family homes, looking at 65 to be built along the river there. It's right along the Enoree River. But we had to obtain this 25-foot strip from Spartanburg Regional Healthcare in order to make that contiguous to the city. And they have also by 100% signed petition for annexation, and the Planning Commission did recommend without any dissension from the community in the area. Or no, this hasn't went to the Planning Commission yet, excuse me, it goes next week. But planning has not looked at it. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But we will be moving forward on this next Monday to bring it forward to the Planning Commission.
Council, I'll entertain a motion to receive ordinance 3-2017.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion.
Glenn,
Yes.
this strip, I'm looking at a map that it must be I guess it's the entire parcel. And then the strip is indicated by oranged hash line.
Hash mark, yes, sir.
Tell me again why we had to have that strip.
We're trying to get to properties to the south, several properties in the southern part of this touching, and the hospital at this time was not amenable to annexing the entire property. So we took the strip in order to get contiguous to the south. If you look at the next ordinance, it has the remainder or the properties that we will be annexing because of the 25-foot strip.
I think we got the cart before the horse on this one, but we'll move forward
Well, it's
with
in
it.
order.
Well, maybe it's the map that I'm just looking at that's confusing. I'll look at the, when we get to the next one, I'll look at that and you can explain.
Yeah, we try to put it in order of the annexation to travel to keep us contiguous in that process. So that's why we started with the 25-foot
The ones in the little
strip.
hoop. that are
By show of hand, is the owner of the property or a representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Let the record indicate no one showed. Others? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, Mayor Danner.
Yes. All right, now we got our strip. We can start with the bigger piece here. First reading of ordinance number 4-2017, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of properties owned by Greenville Office Park LLC, located at 140 Oak Springs Drive, 220 J Street, 240 J Street, part of Lot 122 J Street, 150 J Street, and Lot 8 J Street by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of DRD for said property. Mr. Pace?
Again, Mayor and Council, this is the area to be developed for the 65 homes to be constructed. Again, the views around the river are very spectacular. This is a good piece of property for this type of development and hopefully revitalization of a neighborhood that adjoins that. Currently, the Pelham Mill Village is what's adjoining this as we see now, and that the developer has made some outreach into that community, wanting to offer assistance to some of those and try to help improve some of their housing that's currently on the ground and make and improve that as you enter into the community that he will be developing. And again, this will go to the Planning Commission Monday night, and we'll make that recommendation back to you by second reading.
For the purpose of discussion, do I hear a motion to receive 4-2017?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Floor is open for discussion. By show of hand, is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Record indicate nobody indicated so. We're it's not pertinent to the discussion, but were the mill streets in the Pelham Mill, were they county streets? Or do you know?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Currently, it is, J Street is a county street.
Okay. Others? Questions? Comments? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, the first reading of ordinance number 5-2017, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Jones Avenue Partners, LLC, located on Jones Avenue by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of RM2 for said property. Mr. Pace?
Mayor and Council, this property currently adjoins the city. It would be a portion of a larger tract being incorporated into properties that are already into the city. We're already looking at development to happen in regards to townhomes in this area and on this site. And this area is part of the stream that cuts through the property and separates it from another. But he is needing this additional piece to be added together. I think it's under the same ownership, just not yet brought into the city for development. But he's needing this portion to help with his storm drainage issues and those type things, and this is where he would be incorporating those into his, or desiring to incorporate that into his plan to achieve the goal of the townhomes for this site.
Council, for the purpose of discussion, do I hear a motion to receive?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. By show of hand, is the owner of the property or representative of the owner of the property with us this evening? Thank you, sir, for being with us. If we have a question, we'll ask you to come forward. Any questions in regards to ordinance number 5-2017?
The planned development is already in the annexed part or the
Yes, sir.
annexed? It is?
Yes, sir, it would already be in the city.
Okay.
It's on the uphill side across from El Bethel Church there.
Right.
Is where the development would take place, and this is all the way down at the bottom of Jones Avenue there at the creek.
Was this detention pond called for after, I noticed, I've been by there recently, they've done some grading. Did they realize there were some runoff issues or what?
Well, they were just grubbing out and removing trees primarily right now, and they're prepping the site to move forward with development. And that's when the engineer and all with the slope and contours determined they could use the additional acre to help accommodate that.
Anything you would like to add to the discussion this evening?
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Indu Vakharia. The adjoining property, 5.6 acres, will be developed as a townhome community. The idea of this acreage here is this is a floodplain and it cannot be developed, but it can be used as a storm drainage. It will release a little extra property on the other side that we, instead of using as a storm drainage, we are going to try to provide some community gardens and a play area. So it will increase the usage of the adjoining property. So that is the reason that we came up with the usage of this property which cannot be used for anything else. So that is why we just requesting annexation of this property.
Thank you. Any questions, council? Thank you, Mr. Vakari. We appreciate it. Thank you. Council, any further comments or questions? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, Mayor Danner.
Yes. First reading of ordinance number 6-2017, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of property owned by Laverne T. Miller, Darlene T. Dockett, Jeffrey Wade Thompson, and Denise Thompson Barnett, located at 3006 Brushy Creek Road by 100% petition, and to establish a zoning classification of DRD for said property. Mr. Pace?
Mr. Mayor and Council, at the 11th hour Friday, I got a request from the developer to table this issue until they wanted to do some more due diligence with the sewer that would be downhill and along, I can't think of the road, but it's at the end of Alexander where the intersection there where the church is located at, down at the bottom. They got to get sewer from there to there, around Lismore area, Lismore Park. So they're still having some issues trying to obtain that sewer right of way and the sewer that would be attaching to that. This developer also is the one that did bring us the townhome project and the single family project a little bit further down on Brushy Creek Road here a few months ago. But his request right now is to table that issue until he can get a little more due diligence done on this property.
Our request would be to hold over.
All right. Council, on the advice of staff, ordinance number 6-2017, I'll entertain a motion to hold over.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Bookert,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, last item before us this evening is the first reading of ordinance number 7-2017, an ordinance to change the zoning classification of properties owned by Hong Tran and Mai Tran located at 813 North Main Street from R12 residential to C2. Ms. McCormick?
Mayor, I'm going to request to do this one. This one happened before Ms. McCormick was employed here. The rezoning of this took place in 2016. We had been holding it and request of the previous property owner to hold the request until the transaction took place of the property. That has now happened, and the new owners are in place, and we do have deed of record on file, and that's the reason for the delay. We were waiting on those documents to come to us. We now have them, and we're very satisfied in moving this forward. No one was at the public hearing. No one spoke in favor or in opposition to this request, and the Planning Commission did recommend for approval by unanimous vote.
Entertain a motion to receive ordinance number 7-2017.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. By show of hand, is the owner of the property or representatives of the owner of the property with us this evening? Would you like to address council in regards to this matter? You can if you would like, but it's not necessary. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
She's extremely excited to get her business up and going in the city of Greer. And
All right.
Lots of conversations
Well,
with her.
What type of business will it be?
This will be a nail salon.
Oh, okay.
That's what she's proposing.
We'll see what we can do to help you out here. We've got motion and a second on the floor. Any additional questions or comments this evening? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood?
Yes.
Ms. Bookert?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thank you, staff. We appreciate it. Council, we have no items in executive session this evening.
No way.
Can't be.
I just...
With that, I wish you a happy Valentine's Day, what's left of it. We stand adjourned.